Hi again everybody, it's Stella here from Cracking Glass, back for third day of Open Studios. So we did quite a bit of work in the studio on the first day, and then yesterday I was fitting the leaded panel downstairs, which I'm really happy with. And so today I'm back in the studio, and what I'm going to do today is a bit of 3D work and also some of my upcycling using leftover bits of glass for making flowers and vases. So I've got the little stained glass house that I want to finish today as well. So this is a 3D project. So I've just now been soldering one side of it. So got one side kind of fitted into the walls. That's one of the walls now. But as you can see, the second half of it still needs doing. So I will get that done, ready for the next session, I think. And then apart from that, I've got some vases and flowers. So if you see here, these are a finished vase with some flowers in. And you can see I've used a selection of different fragments of glass. You know, pieces like this is a beautiful piece of glass and a lovely shape, but to use it for anything else, it's kind of quite an awkward size, really. So just seemed a nice way to use up those lovely pieces of glass. So I'm going to be making a vase a bit like that today, and a few flowers, hopefully. So when I looked through my stuff, I found I'd already got some pieces ready to make a vase. So what I'm going to be doing is fitting those together and making those into the three sides. I do my vases triangular, which I think is a beautiful shape. So they go together something like that. I take photos of them to remind myself how I fitted them together. So they're all foiled and ready to go, so they're ready for soldering as well. So I'll folder those sides and maybe attach them together later on as well. And then I just wanted to show you a bit about the flowers. So what I tend to do with these is cut a selection of different kind of random petal shapes, and then I use some internal bits from my earrings, bits that haven't worked out quite right in the kiln. They might have gone a bit wonky, or the colour's not quite how I wanted it. So I have some leftover bits of fusible glass, which is lovely and shiny and opaque. So I tend to use those for the centres, which looks nice. And then I put them on a rod, which is a narrow steel rod, and it's copper coated. And then you can stick them. My vases obviously don't actually hold water, so they're ideal for these kind of things. So what I've got, kind of rummaging through and stuff, I've also got plenty of petals and bits to use for centres. So one of the things I might do today is sit outside in the lovely weather and do a bit more foiling, because I've also got some bits here that are ready for foiling. So I've got the petals for a few flowers ready here. There's a red one there. So there's a few flowers there to do. I'm not quite sure what these are, but I might be able to investigate and find out what I can use those for as well. Anyway, I'm not going to give myself too much work to do today, because as you've probably noticed, time flies when you're doing stained glass. Okay, so what I'm going to start off by doing is just doing a little bit of cutting to show you how I do the flowers. Okay, so don't need my mask on, which I've been soldering with, but I do need my glasses so I can see, and my goggles as well for cutting. So some of you might have seen the cutting already. Oh, I haven't got my tools out. Let's find my tools in here. my box of goodies. I'll just put all my lead tools back in here, and here's the cutting tools underneath. Breakers, grazers and a cutter. I think it's nice to see a bit more of the cutting because it's kind of really a very central part of the process of working with glass. And I'll get the dustpan and brush ready as well. Okay, so I'm cutting on the cutting cloth again. So like a piece like this, you see, it's a nice bit of glass, but there's not many shapes you can actually cut out of that. So I'm going to use that. I think I can probably get about 3 petals out of that. So I'm just going to score one like that. See how that goes. There we go. I like them to be kind of nice and wiggly and organic looking, really. Oops, that's the right way up. Yep, that's done it. Good. Let's see what else I can get here. Another one there, I reckon. Pull that little bit off first, I think. There we go. And how am I going to get that bit off? It's going to be quite hard, actually. Doesn't want to go that one. Try it this way. Yay. I think I can even get another one down this end. So I mean, this one's come out a bit of a funny shape, but what I can do is I can use the grinder to take that little blip off, and it'll be a nice shape as well. So you can see like the flower shape's starting to take shape, isn't it? What should we do here? Maybe a slightly curvy one there, like that. Go on, go for it. There you go. And let's put a slightly different colour in as well. Always cut on the smooth side with glass. It's got a texture on that side, so it's cut on the smooth side. So these ones are going to be more flowing shapes, I think. Like just an oval. Okay, there we go. So I think that will make a really nice pattern for a flower. How are we doing for time? A couple of minutes left to go. So yeah, I'm just going to select one of these. I mean, one of these centres is going to look nice with that, isn't it? So all those pieces also have to be ground. So I'm just going to move the palette onto the grinder. As you can see, my workstation accommodates a lot of different skills and crafts, and does get moved around quite a lot, so it becomes the cutting table. When I'm building a window, building a leaded panel, then this whole section is, you know, converted to building. But this is my grinder down this end here. I've got more stuff on here than I normally have. So I'm just going to show you, like this one here that had a bit of a blip on it. I'm just going to grind that and just show you how that is. So check the sponge is wet still. Yeah. Go. That looks all right to me. So once that's done, then I'm going to wrap some foil around it. And with the flowers, I tend to use a very narrow foil because they're quite small pieces. Otherwise, you'd lose, you know, they're quite narrow. That's very narrow, in fact. They'd lose too much if you put thick foil on it. So I just put a narrow foil around it. So yeah, I'll continue building that during today. And yeah, so I'm going to head off now and probably do some foiling outside, and I'll be back here again at 1 o'clock, and I will also show you my earrings there as well. Hi again, Stella at Cracking Glass here. So we're getting into the home run now. I've just got 2 more live streams to do. Feels like I've been doing a lot of talking over the last few days, but let's get stuck in for this next session, which will be about another 10 minutes. So I've got my earrings here because I thought it might be nice to see. It's really, they're so tactile and so respond to the light that it's so nice to see them live, really. But I just wanted to show a couple of things. Some of the glass that I use, like this one in particular, it depends which way the light bounces off it. It changes colour. So it kind of goes from orange to a deep red. So some of the glass is like that. You can look at photos on my Cracking Glass website, crackingglass.co.uk, and see photos, but obviously you won't get that two-tone kind of effect very well. So I just wanted to show you that some of the reds are like that, and there's also this pinky purple, which goes purple and pink. I don't know if you can catch that, but it's got 2 colours in it. And this one here as well, it's kind of got a greeny and a kind of bluey, purpley almost kind of colour. It's kind of quite, it can look very grey, but as soon as it catches the light, it's got different colours in it. So just wanted to show you that really, and you know, look at these beautiful colours. Some of them like this, it's got 2 colours in it, but it stays the same. So they are a bit unpredictable. If you want to know about craft fairs that I might be doing in the future, the best thing to do really is to like me on Facebook, because I always advertise them on there. But if ever you do want to get in touch and find out about stuff from me, please contact me either through Facebook or through the website. I'm always pleased to hear from people. Okay, moving swiftly on, I'm going to go back to the little stained glass house that I was cutting out on the first day. So this is a kind of 2-sided house, where we've got the kind of cosy, happy side on this side, and on the other side we've got the kind of devastation of climate catastrophe, really. So, you know, about choices that we have some power to influence, probably more than some people in the world. So, yeah, that's my little house. So it's all cut out, and I'm going to show you a little bit of how to fit it together as a 3D item. So I've got my iron here. So put all my gear on. So I've soldered all the walls so that they're ready to go. And what I've done is taped together kind of each of the seams, kind of passing over the seams with a bit of a gap, and then pulled it together and taped it so that it's held in place. And what I'm trying to do is get these corners lined up so that I can solder them square like that. Okay, so always have to flux everything that you're going to solder. So I'll do that first. So I'm just going to be doing a few blobs of solder just to hold it. And soldering sideways like this is much more tricky than soldering flat. But it needs to be done for this bit. Okay, so I'm going to start off by just attaching all the corners. And getting them as good right angles as I can. So just getting the inside edges meeting, and then put a blob of solder across each corner. I mean, the great thing about soldering, even in a 3D situation, is that solder is so strong that even just a little blob across starts to hold it in shape very quickly. So I can just hold it while I put that on. Okay, so I've got the basic shape there. Try and keep it as square as possible. Then I'm going to try and do the same thing a little bit lower down each side. So put a blob in the middle. As you can see, it follows gravity and wants to fall off. But even if it just attaches a bit across the join, that will give it a lot of strength. Same here, I'm going to push this a bit to get it where I want it. Yeah. And very easily knocks out of shape. But at this point I can still wiggle it back. And actually, with it being such a small piece, it's quite easy for me to just pick up and work on it that way. It's funny because this is the kind of opposite of the window I was doing yesterday, where it's a really big piece, which is fun to build, but it can be a bit of a nightmare, like having to lift it and manoeuvre it and find space to work on it. So I like the combination of sometimes doing big pieces and sometimes doing little fiddly ones. Right, so that's tacked all the way around and it's looking fairly square. So what I'm going to do now is take this tape off, because it should be held in place enough now. So this is insulating tape, which I use that because it's got a bit of give in it. It sticks quite well to the glass, as long as you've washed all the flux off beforehand, and has a bit of give. You have to be careful it doesn't pull the foil off though. People in glass houses. So I've chosen quite light coloured glass for this. I think it's partly that green glass makes me just think of glass houses, of greenhouses, because that greenhouse glass you get sometimes has a bit of a greenish tinge to it, doesn't it? Cheap glass has a bit of a green tinge. And I like the fact that you can see through to the other side. So I like the lightness of the whole piece. Okay, so now I've done all these bits and you can see it's holding it quite well, fairly firm. I'm just going to go back to each of them and just give a little bit more solder to just give it a bit more strength. But I seem to have developed this technique where I don't actually fill all the gaps. And part of the reason for that is just that it keeps it light. The thing is with using solder, it's, you know, partly again, I don't want to waste the resources more than I need to. And partly it can get very heavy. So I think with something like this, which is kind of, it's a bit of fun. It's not a structural, you know, finished box kind of thing that needs to be all neat and tidy. It's a kind of idea as much as anything, isn't it? I think as long as it's held securely, it doesn't need to all be filled in. That's just what suits my taste, really. And it keeps it light as well. Okay, so that's enough to hold it for now. could always tidy it up a little bit more later if I want to. So I'm going to put the roof on now, so make sure I get it the right way round to have the two different sides. So line the roof up like this, and hopefully it should fit. It's not bad, is it? Okay, so what I'm going to do first is just flux and tack the two sides. And I think it's easiest to just hold it in place while I do this. Whoops. So again, just need to get a few bits on to tack it, and then there will be a bit of room for manoeuvre once it's held. So that's held in place on that side. Let's wiggle it around a bit. Ooh, I bent it down a bit too far there, really. But I'll just get it attached here. Oh yeah, I fluxed it already, didn't I? So the solder obviously goes downhill. As it goes liquid, it goes downhill. Now, it just seems to be, doesn't look so bad there, does it? I thought it was leaning a bit too far. Whoops! Is it still filming?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was leaning a bit far, but it's not too bad, so I'm going to just see if I can just move it slightly up here, because I need to attach the top section together as well now. So when I designed it, I thought that I would put the end triangles into the house when it was at that point, but I'm actually quite liking it with the open ends. Partly it gives somewhere to lift it by, and partly it just makes it have that nice lightness. And the thing is, with working on 3D pieces and new designs, sometimes you don't know until you've made it how structurally sound it's going to be. Oh dear, the camera's going mad. So, you know, sometimes you decide as you go along how it's going to all work out. And I think this feels strong enough without needing those end gables, is it? But I'll make this joint at the top nice and strong. Don't want that coming apart. So, how are we doing for time? Yeah, nearly done really. So I'm going to tidy that up. Oh, I've got to just put the waves on as well. So we've also got the crashing waves building up onto the side of the climate crisis. So these I'm going to attach along the bottom. Just check they're not going to be off the end. Yeah, that's going to work. So I'll do them along the bottom, and then I'll also just attach them to each other and to the side of the house. In stained glass, straight join is the weakest kind of join, but it just holds them away. reckon I can to these seams here and a bit there. As long as things are held in a few places, it kind of helps them. But even these little tiny dots are incredibly strong. And I'll probably just fill that in. So anyway, as you can see, I've got a little bit of tidying up to do, but that's basically what the little house is going to look like. Hopefully you can get a good view of that. Maybe against the white wall. There's the woman calling for help. And then here we've got the cosy side to be tidied up. Somebody sitting with a cat, lying with a cat, and a woman and child. So remember, people in glass houses, don't throw stones. Look after this precious world. Okay, so my very last session will be on today, a bit later on, at 4 o'clock. So do pop by if you can. Sorry. Oh yeah, so it's the last session of Open Studios, and do remember to look at other Open Studios as well if you possibly can, because they'll be going on till middle of June, and I'm sure there's loads of stuff online from all the other artists as well. Thanks for coming. Okay. Hi there, welcome back for the final session from the Open Studio 3-day event that I've been putting on. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I've had a really good time and done some new and different things and enjoyed it a lot. I'm just putting finishing touches to a few pieces and hanging them on my wall to make a little display. This is a piece that is inspired by leftover bits, and so I've made a kind of boat. And again, I've done a bit of a double layer thing, which I'm quite into. It's quite good with glass as well, because the weakest join in stained glass is a straight line. So to have something that goes behind it makes it a bit stronger. So hanging it out with some invisible thread. So those are all pieces that I've made over this weekend. I've also been working on this vase here. So in the first session today, all the pieces were just already cut. They were scrap pieces of glass that I'd chosen and fitted together, just slightly twitched maybe with the grinder a bit, and made them into the 3 sides. So then since then I've soldered them into the 3 sides and fitted together like I did with the house in last session. And then I've cut a base around the shape that was of the base of the vase and given it a bit of an extended base to make it more stable. So that's ready there for the flower. So the flower I cut first thing this morning out of some scrap glass, and since then I've ground it and put copper foil around the edges. So now I'm just going to solder it together and put it on a stalk to make a flower. So that's the kind of one of the other main things I like to make out of little pieces of scrap glass, because I can use really small pieces up. Okay, so I'm just going to, first of all, what I need to do is cover them all in solder. So this is a bit of a production line thing. It's actually much better if I've got loads of pieces because they get very hot. But I shall just whiz you through the process. So for any soldering, you always need to flux the pieces. So let's do that. And then get some solder. The bit I was using has got a bit short, so we'll add it to the next piece because it gets very, very hot. Okay, and then I'm going to paint solder on all the edges so that everything's covered. So you can see the solder goes on very easily. Quite quick job, it's just a bit fiddly. And like I say, the problem is that the pieces get very hot. But I have got my pliers handy if I need them. It's all right at the top and bottom because they're flat on the board for that. But to do the outside edge, I have to hold them. And this is a leftover bit from an earring that must have not worked out quite as I wanted, or maybe even a necklace. Okay, so that's one side done. Flip them over. They're warm but not hot at the moment, which is good. The quicker I work, the less time they have to heat up. So I do hope you've enjoyed having a taste of stained glass. I mean, I think of the crafts. I work with a lot of people teaching stained glass, and lots of people seem to really love working with glass for many different reasons, really. I think kind of people who like working with tools like it. People who are very arty like it because the colours are so gorgeous. People who are into design. People who like, you know, the history of seeing windows in churches and are inspired by stuff they've seen. People come at it from lots of different angles, but you know, a lot of people really love working with glass. So if you get the opportunity, go for it. I normally teach through Nottingham College, and I also do workshops at my friend Anna's post office garden in Macaulay when we're able. So I guess at some point that will happen again. Obviously not right now, but I kind of run groups of usually about 7 people to run those groups at weekends, doing a full day of workshop. And you can get to make a piece of Tiffany stained glass in a day. Right, I'm getting there with this slowly. I haven't done that one at all. See, my technique is I do one end, and before it gets too hot, move on to the next one. Ah, yeah, not the foolproof technique. So concentrate, because I'm thinking about talking to you guys. So let's see, yeah, that one's all right. That one's done. That one's done. Ah, that's the hot one. Okay, that's that. Now this is going to be really hot, so I'm going to do that with the pliers, I think. Yeah, these the earrings. You can look at the colours I've got on my website, but if you know what colours you want, I will be doing another batch quite soon. So you could drop me a line and I'll try and get the colour that you like. I mean, the trouble with all these things is it is much nicer to actually see them to choose, but we can't always have what we want, can we? Okay, so I think that's all pretty much covered. So now what I'm going to do is line these pieces up in a bit of a flower shape. Ooh. There we go. So they've already got flux on them, so they should attach together quite easily. Okay, so those are held together. And now if we just use this centerpiece on top, it kind of covers those bits of solder and also gives it a lot more strength. And hold that in place with a stick and then just attach to the seams. Just catch across the join. Go on. There you go. That makes the whole thing so strong. Like that. Yeah, and a big thanks to Open Studio for organising all this event and also supporting us artists to do it virtually when we weren't able to do it live. So now on the back, I've got a rod somewhere. Here it is. Yeah, there it is. So that's a steel rod, copper coated, and I'm just going to solder that onto the back here. And I'll tidy this up a bit later, but I just wanted to get it finished to the point of you being able to see it in situ in the vase. So there you go. So let's see if we can line up all the things I've made over the weekend. Shall I move it along that way a bit? That better? Pretty much. There's the little house as well. The little glass house. How's that looking? Okay, thanks ever so much for coming along, and do hope you get to have some more contact with stained glass and maybe bring some into your life somewhere. Thanks a lot. Bye.